When people talk about love, they often talk about the beginning. The butterflies, the laughter, the late-night calls. But they don't talk enough about the silence that can grow in the middle. That's exactly what happened between Adora and Ken. In the early days, their love was warm and loud. Ken would always tease her when she cooked, saying her jollof rice was better than any restaurant's own. She would roll her eyes and smile, pretending not to blush. They laughed a lot back then, loud, foolish laughter that made the world outside their home disappear. They didn't have everything, but they had each other. When Ken came home from work, he would drop his bag, hold her waist from behind, and whisper sweet things into her ear. They talked about the future like children making big plans, about their dream house, about having kids, about growing old together. For Adora, this was the kind of love she prayed for. But over time, the air in the house started to feel different. Ken became quiet. He came home later and later, claiming work was heavy. His laughter stopped echoing in the rooms. And even when he was around, it felt like he was somewhere else. He stopped asking about her day, stopped touching her, stopped paying attention to the little things she did. The Ken who used to hug her tight every morning now walked past her like a stranger. At first, she thought it was just stress. She told herself, "Give it time, it will pass." But it didn't. She started cooking his favorite meals. No reaction. She changed her hairstyle. Nothing. She bought new nightwear. He barely looked at her. The house became a quiet war zone. No shouting, no slamming doors, just silence. The kind of silence that eats away at your heart slowly. One afternoon, while visiting her friend Mimi, Adora broke down in tears. "I don't even know if my husband still sees me," she whispered. "He's there, but he's not there." Mimi, ever the bold one, leaned closer and said something Adora never forgot. "My sister, men change when they feel like nothing is happening. If you tell him you're pregnant now, you'll see how he'll come running. It will shake him." They laughed a little, but that night, Adora didn't sleep. The thought stuck in her head like a stubborn song. She remembered how Ken always said he wanted a baby boy. He used to press her belly playfully and say, "Junior is in there waiting for us." She lay awake staring at the ceiling and whispered, "If this will bring us back, maybe it's not so bad." The next morning, Adora made a decision that would change everything. She went to a pharmacy, bought a pregnancy test kit, and locked herself in the bathroom. She stared at the single pink line with shaky hands. No baby, no miracle, but she couldn't let it end there. She pulled out a small eyeliner pencil and drew a faint second line. Her heart raced. It wasn't real, but her pain was. She told herself, "I'll tell him. He'll smile. Things will be good again." That night, when Ken returned home, she waited for the right moment. She placed a little test strip on the table and said softly, "Ken, I'm pregnant." For a moment, his face changed. Not joy, just shock. But he quickly forced a smile and hugged her. "Are you serious?" he said, trying to sound excited. She nodded and leaned into his chest, hoping she could feel the old warmth again. But Ken wasn't feeling warmth. He was feeling something else. Confusion. Doubt. They hadn't been close in weeks. How could she be pregnant? That night, while Adora slept with a soft smile on her face, Ken stared at the ceiling just like she used to. By the next morning, his mind was already running ahead. He called his cousin Chucks, who worked at a small clinic. "Bro," he said over the phone, "I need you to help me check something." Quietly, he took the test strip, wrapped it in tissue, and handed it to Chucks later that day. The result came back clear. No trace of pregnancy hormone. Chucks laughed softly. "Guy, this woman is playing you. This strip no even smell like pregnancy." Ken drove home that night, with a straight face. But inside him, something cracked. She lied to him, the woman he once trusted more than anyone. But he didn't confront her immediately. No, he decided to play along. From that day, he became a sweet husband again. He called her Mama Junior. He rubbed her shoulders and offered her water with a grin. He joked about names and painted fake excitement on his face. But behind that smile was a heart that was slowly hardening. A few days later, he casually asked, "Which hospital are you using for antenatal? I'll follow you next week." Adora froze for a second, then forced a laugh. No, my doctor doesn't like too many people. It's a private thing. I'll go alone." He nodded like everything was fine. But deep down, he confirmed what he already knew. That night, while she slept, he opened her drawer quietly. No hospital card. No medical paper. Nothing. Ken leaned against the wall and sighed. So this is what we've become. One afternoon, Mimi came visiting again. Ken pretended to be asleep in the living room. But their voices carried through the thin walls. "Walk slowly like your back is paining you," Mimi said. "And don't forget to hold your stomach when you laugh." They giggled, but Ken clenched his jaw under the blanket. His hands shook with a mix of anger and disappointment. That night, as they ate dinner, Ken stared at her and said quietly, "Make sure your story doesn't scatter before the movie ends." Adora looked up sharply. She tried to smile, but her hands trembled. Days turned to weeks. The air in the house grew heavy. Ken became unpredictable, sometimes warm, sometimes ice cold. She felt it, but she didn't know what he was waiting for. One night, his phone rang. It was Chuck's. Adora watched him walk to the balcony to answer the call, something he never used to do before. Her heart started beating fast. She crept close to the curtain and listened. "Yeah, bro, she still doesn't know I know. No pregnancy, zero hormone. I'm just letting her enjoy her movie. When I'm ready, I'll end it." Her heart dropped. She staggered back, holding her chest. He knew. He had known all along. When he walked in, smiling like everything was normal, something inside her snapped. "So all this time, you've been pretending," she said, her voice shaking. He turned slowly. "What did you say?" "You knew, Ken. You knew I wasn't pregnant." The smile disappeared from his face. "And what exactly were you expecting? A round of applause for your lie?" "I only wanted to fix what we lost," she shouted. "You've been here, but not here. I was drowning, and you didn't even look at me." "So you decided to lie," he roared. "You wanted me to be excited over a fake child. What kind of person does that?" Tears rolled down her face. "You killed the love first, Ken. You pushed me away and acted like I was invisible. I only did what I thought would bring us back." "No," he said, pointing at her. "You did what broke us completely." Their voices filled the house that night. Words they had buried for months came out like fire. Every pain, every silence, every unspoken feeling. The room that once carried laughter now carried anger and betrayal. Adora was shaking, not just from his words, but from the realization that what they once had was now hanging by a single thread. Ken's eyes were hard, but behind that hardness was hurt. He wasn't just angry she lied. He was angry they had reached a point where lying felt like the only way to save their marriage. That night, Adora sat alone on the floor after the shouting ended. The lights were off. Ken was in the other room, breathing heavily, pretending to be asleep, but neither of them slept. In their silence, two hearts that once beat together now sat on opposite sides of the wall, both hurting, both angry, both broken. This was no longer about a fake pregnancy. It was about everything that had died slowly between them. And as the night grew darker, so did the distance between them. Whether they would heal or fall apart, only time would tell. Adora woke up the next morning with swollen eyes and a pounding heart. The house was cold, not because of the weather, but because something between them had cracked beyond repair. She sat up slowly, listening to the silence. Ken was already up. She could hear the faint sound of running water from the bathroom. The same man who used to kiss her forehead every morning now walked around the house like a ghost she used to know. When he stepped out, he didn't look at her. He grabbed his car keys from the table and slid on his shoes. "Ken," she whispered. He stopped, hand on the doorknob, but he didn't turn. She swallowed hard. "Can we talk?" He let out a bitter laugh. "About what, Adora?" Another lie. She flinched like he had slapped her. He didn't wait for her reply. The door opened. Then it closed. And just like that, she was alone. For the next few days, they barely spoke. They moved around the house like strangers forced to share space. Adora tried to talk once, twice, but every time she opened her mouth, his cold eyes told her not to bother. Ken buried himself in work. Or maybe more truthfully, he used work as an excuse to stay away. Adora, on the other hand, found herself replaying everything. Every smile, every late-night whisper, every morning kiss. It was like their love had been a movie, and someone had pressed pause at the worst scene. At night, she would turn and stare at the empty space beside her. The silence was heavier than any argument they could have had. She hated what she'd done, but she also hated how invisible she had become before the lie. One evening, she sat on the balcony with Mimi. The sky was gray, and so was her mood. "You need to tell him everything," Mimi said softly, her voice lacking its usual sharpness. "Not just a fake test. Everything you felt. Every part of it." Adora sighed. "And what if he doesn't care anymore? What if I already lost him?" Mimi looked at her with tired eyes. "Then at least you'll stop drowning alone." That same night, Ken came home late again. He dropped his bag without a word and walked straight to the bedroom. But before he could close the door, she blocked it with her hand. "Please," she said quietly, "talk to me." He stared at her for a long moment, jaw clenched, before stepping back. She walked in slowly, feeling like a stranger in her own marriage. "I know what I did was wrong," she began, her voice trembling. I lied. I lied because I thought maybe it would wake something up in you again. I've been losing you for months, Ken. Every day you drifted further, and I didn't know how to bring you back." He turned away, his hands on his head. "And you thought lying about a baby was the answer?" "No," she cried. "But I was desperate. I didn't know what else to do. You didn't touch me anymore. You didn't look at me. I felt like I was fading away in my own house." He spun around, his voice sharp. "And you didn't think to just talk to me? To tell me? You went behind my back to play me like some fool." She stepped closer. "I tried. Ken, I tried. But every time I spoke, you were too tired, too busy, too cold. So I stopped talking. And the silence grew. And I hated it. I hated us." Ken's chest rose and felt like a man trying to keep his anger from spilling. "You broke something, Adora," he said finally, his voice lower. "You broke the trust. That's not something you just fix with tears." Her own tears fell now, heavy and hot. "I know, but can we at least try? We were happy once. Can we at least try?" He looked at her then, really looked at her, not as a woman who lied to him, but as the woman who once filled his days with light. He saw the hurt, the fear, the cracks she tried to cover. But pain has a way of blinding people to love. "I don't know if I can," he whispered. The following weeks were like walking on broken glass. Ken stayed in the house, but he was no longer home. He answered her questions with short replies. He avoided her eyes. He didn't laugh. But she didn't give up. She started cooking again, not to impress him this time, but because she needed something to hold on to. She put flowers on the table. She washed and ironed his shirts even though he didn't say thank you. And slowly, something shifted. Not much, but enough to make him notice. One night, as he entered the kitchen for water, he found her asleep at the table, a pot of stew still steaming. She looked tired, fragile, human, not a liar, just a woman who had lost her way. He stood there for a while, watching her. The next day, he came home early, for the first time in months. She was in the living room, folding clothes, her hair tied back in a scarf. He cleared his throat. She turned, surprised. "We need to talk," he said. Her heart raced. "Okay." They sat on opposite ends of the couch, the silence between them heavy. "I won't lie," he began. "What you did broke me. I felt stupid. I felt betrayed. But I also know I disappeared from this marriage before you lied. I stopped trying. I stopped showing up. I made it easy for you to feel alone." Tears filled her eyes again, but she stayed quiet. "I don't know how to trust you right now," he continued. "But I also don't want to pretend like I don't care. I do. I care too much." She whispered, "So what do we do?" He sighed. "We start over. Slowly, if we can. No pretending. No lies. No fake babies. Just the truth, even when it's ugly." That night, for the first time in a long time, they sat together at the table. No laughter. No romance. Just two broken people trying to talk. And maybe that was the beginning they needed. Their love was no longer about butterflies. It was about silence, truth, and the hard work of finding each other again. Adora didn't know what the future would hold. Neither did Ken. But as they sat there, side by side, breathing the same quiet air, it felt like a small door had opened. Not a promise. Not a miracle. Just a chance. And sometimes, a chance is all love needs to grow again. If you felt the emotions, learned something, or just enjoyed listening, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new story. Your support means a lot. It keeps the stories coming and the love growing. See you in the next one.